Listo, muchas gracias.
Okay, right now we're going to start. Hello, everyone. Welcome, dear students. It is a pleasure having you here. Today is a very special day as our International Business Club, Entrepreneurship Club, Finance and Investment Club, Excellence Club, and the Finance and Investment Lab presents our 4 interactive workshop with USIL and the CFA Institute on ethical decision making. How to do the right thing even when no one is looking. This initiative is within the framework of our ESG, Environmental, Social, and Governance Education Campaign, ESG Connect Us.
In February 2019, an initial contact was made with the Chartered Financial Analyst CFA Institute of New York, and our relationship has been consolidated with the purpose of innovation together in investment education with codes of ethics. Today, USIL has created with the CFA Institute 10 activities, 4 ethics workshops, our participation in the CFA Research Challenge. The USIL won the first inter-university format of CFA Ethics Challenge in Latin America, the USIL ESG Research Challenge, the USIL Investment Sustainability Roundtable, and World Investment Week and Global Money Week.
Now, I will tell you a little more about today's webinar. Ethical Decision-Making Workshop, how to do the right thing even if no one is watching. Can ethics be dangerous for your career? What should you do if you are asked to do something that you think it's illegal or unethical? In this interactive workshop in English, we will solve these and other questions. This workshop will focus on how to analyze investment professional practice situations to make the best ethical decisions. Our mentor today is Michael McMillan, PhD, CFA and CPA. PhD in Accounting and Finance, Chartered Financial Analyst and Certified Public Accountant. Dear Professor McMillan, please continue the workshop. We will be happy to interact with you.
Well, good. Thank you all very much for that wonderful introduction. And I can't believe it's only been 2 years since that initial contact with CFA Institute, and we've been able to work so closely with you. So this may be the 10th event that we've done in conjunction with the university, but let's hope it is not the end. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get going. And remember, this is designed to be an interactive workshop. So I encourage everyone to ask questions, make comments, and if you feel more comfortable, you can post your questions or comments in the chat box. And then I'm sure one of the great hosts who introduced me will read the question and tell me exactly what it says. So let me get going. Where are we? Okay. We're screen sharing. Okay, yeah. All right. So let us get going. Here are a couple of facts about the CFA Institute, if you may not know them. We awarded the first CFA charter in 1963, which is 58 years ago. In the first year we held the exam, there were 284 candidates from the US and Canada who sat for the exam. And at that time, the pass rate was 94%. Whoa. Fast forward to 2019, which is the last year that we gave the exam in person, there were more than 354,000 candidates from all over the world, and the average pass rate was about 44%, a little bit lower than before. But here's an important fact: more than 57% of candidates came from the Asia Pacific region, Hong Kong, Singapore, China, and India. So the CFA charter is truly a global designation. I'm not going to go into the details about the CFA exam, but because I'm sure you're familiar with them. But here's one point I want to bring up that pertains to our workshop today. Every single ethics question on the CFA examinations has one right answer and two wrong answers. In real life, most ethical dilemmas do not have clear right or wrong answers. So what I'm going to do today is I am going to place you into some real life ethical dilemmas that investment professionals have told me that they have encountered. And then I'm going to ask you to vote anonymously on what you would do if you found yourself in a similar situation. But more on that in one moment. So again, I show you this slide just to emphasize the global nature of the CFA designation. So if you have a desire to work in New York or Chicago or London, Paris, Abu Dhabi, or Hong Kong, if you would like to work in the investment industry in any one of those places, having a CFA charter is certainly going to help you achieve that goal. And I do have to say, I've done a lot of work in Latin America, Buenos Aires, Montevideo, Sao Paulo. Unfortunately, I've never been to Peru, but I look forward to visiting soon. But I will say that the CFA designation in those countries and cities that I mentioned previously are really view CFA charter holders very highly. I can't forget Mexico either. So anyway, so let's talk about ethics. This is what we mean by ethical behavior. It's doing the right thing when no one else is watching, even when doing the wrong thing is legal. Now, this is the point about ethics. The law represents the minimum standard that we all must follow. Ethics, however, represents a much higher standard. So there are many things that you can do that are legal, but they still may be unethical. And one of the reasons why the CFA candidates have grown so much over the past 50 years is because employers know that when they hire a CFA charter holder, that charter holder can't just do what is legal. That charter holder has to live up to a much higher standard. So now that I've told you what ethical behavior is, this is what we mean by, this is what we mean by the mission of CFA Institute. Sorry about that. Do you know from 1963 until 2008, our mission was to lead the investment profession globally by promoting the highest standards of ethics, education, and professional excellence, period. Then the global financial crisis of 2008 occurred. And as you may know, as a result of that financial crisis in 2008, there were many people around the world who lost their homes. There were even more people who lost their jobs, and there were even more people who lost their life savings as a result of the financial crisis. So we began to think about this at CFA Institute, and we realized that if we could raise the educational standards of investment professionals in our industry, and if we could increase the ethical behavior of investment professionals in our industry, that would ultimately benefit society. So that's why we added that last line to our mission statement, for the ultimate benefit of society. So here's my question. Why should you act ethically? Now, this is where you all get to participate. Someone tell me, why should you act ethically? Then of course I'll call on someone if you don't want to volunteer. And so may I ask Jose Andres, why should you act ethically? Why don't you tell me that? Huh? Jose, are you there? Anybody else? Why should you act unethically? Well, here's a great quote from one of our past presidents of the United States. And this president said, "When I do good, I feel good. When I do bad, I feel bad. That is my religion." So what this is really saying is this: you should want to act ethically, not because you're afraid of getting in trouble or getting fired from your job or something like that. Why you should act ethically should come from internally, should come from inside you, because you know that when you do good, when you act ethically, you're going to feel good. And hopefully, when you act unethically, you're going to feel bad. So that's really why you should act ethically. It should come from within your soul or your being. So I want to talk a moment about what investment professionals do, because oftentimes many people have the wrong impression of the investment profession. So one of the primary responsibilities of an investment professionals is to communicate knowledge and information about financial markets and about investment securities to clients. So you see, to many clients, the financial markets and investing is a very complicated and complex process. So our job as investment professionals is to explain it to them in a very easy way so that they understand it. Another important responsibility of investment professionals is to cause positive change in our clients' lives. Clients come to us and they have goals and dreams. They may want to buy a house. They may want to save money for retirement. They may want to save money to send their children or grandchildren to university. So our role as investment professionals is to help them achieve those goals and dreams. And how are we going to do that? By instructing and guiding them. We're going to create, if you will, an investment roadmap for our clients. And the destination at the end of that roadmap is their dream. So every quarter or periodically, we're going to meet with our clients to ensure that they are following that roadmap to achieve their dreams. Lastly, we're going to exercise all the special skills that we developed from attending university and from perhaps participating in the CFA program to benefit our clients and to act solely in their best interest. So these are the primary responsibilities and obligations of investment professionals. So this is how we define ethics at CFA Institute. Ethics has got to begin with education. So not only do you have to know about economics and about financial markets and investing, you also need to know the laws, rules, and regulations in the countries in which you're doing business. So ethics has got to begin with education. Equally as important, ethics requires trust, and trust is earned, not given. Now, how do you earn your client's trust? By being honest, by having integrity, by having courage, and being a steward towards your client's money. Now, let me explain what some of these terms are. When I talk about having integrity, I mean modeling your organization's or your own personal values. Having integrity also means being transparent, being open, being consistent, being honest, moral, and there's that word, trustworthy. Having integrity also means acting with authenticity and honesty, by speaking the truth and by taking responsibility for your actions. Now, being courageous, and here is the thing, oftentimes you may find that it's not easy being ethical or behaving in an ethical manner. It takes courage. It takes courage so that you don't shrink from threats, challenges, or difficulty, and that you speak up for what is right, even when opposition exists. Being courageous also means acting with conviction, despite facing an unpopular environment or despite having to make an unpopular decision. Now, when I talk about stewardship, this is what I mean. And before I show the next definition, I want you to think about this. Think about the last time you went to the doctor. You went to the doctor because you weren't feeling well or some part of your body hurt. So you go to the doctor, you tell him or her what's bothering you. The doctor may ask you a series of questions and then gives you a checkup. And then at the very end, they sit you down and they tell you exactly what you need to do to get better. Think about that moment. As that doctor is telling you what you needed to do, was there ever a doubt in your mind that what that doctor was telling you was not in your best interest? Probably not. And the reason why you didn't doubt your doctor is because we all entrust our health and body to our doctors. And in return, we expect them to carefully and responsibly manage our health solely in our best interest. Well, as investment professionals, we are stewards of our clients' money. They are entrusting their money to us, and in return, they expect us to carefully and responsibly manage their money solely in their best interests. So, our goal of this workshop today is quite simple. We want to encourage you to become more conscious and aware of your own thoughts and behaviors so that hopefully you will be more likely to notice and act upon ethical issues before they become a problem. Secondly, we want you to recognize that ethical dilemmas are a normal and predictable part of many jobs in the investment industry. And let me give you an example. I'm sure many of you are familiar with stockbrokers. Stockbrokers are often called financial consultants or what have you. But the key thing I want to bring to your attention about stockbrokers is that most of them are paid on commission. And that represents an ethical dilemma. You see, when you were paid on commission, you only get paid if the client buys what you're selling or what you're recommending to that client. So here's the issue. It's at the end of the month, and you receive a call from your stockbroker who is recommending an investment product to you. Now, the question is that stockbroker recommending that investment product to you because it's in your best interest? Or is that stockbroker recommending that product to you because it's at the end of the month and they need you to buy that product so that they can use the commissions to pay for their rent, their car, or other household expenses. Now, this is not to say that stockbrokers or anybody else who works on commission is unethical. What I am saying, however, is people who are paid on commission face this ethical dilemma, otherwise known as a conflict of interest, on a daily basis. In other words, it's a normal and predictable part of their jobs. So what we're also going to do is to discuss some approaches for dealing with some of these issues. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to this website using your cell phone, your laptop, your iPad, or whatever. It's www.slido.com. And if Nicole, you could put this in the chat box, thank you. And then sign in with this code USIL. And the USIL does not have to be in all capital letters. You can put it in small letters if you want to, all right? So if everybody would sign up for that, we can get started. And if anyone has any problem with logging on to Slido, by all means, let me know. All right, so here is our first situation. Oops, sorry about that. This is a true story too, so at the end, I'll tell you what happened. Your boss who hired you and has mentored you for the past 3 years is being unfairly let go because of office politics. As the sole support of her family, she is concerned about finding another job. So 2 weeks before she is scheduled to leave, she places a stack of files on your desk and asks you to copy them because she will use them in her job search. The files contain research reports that she wrote, marketing presentations containing her performance record, and spreadsheet models that she created. So what do? Do you A, copy the files, B, refuse to copy the files, C, only copy the research reports she wrote, or D, only copy the spreadsheet models that she created? So I'm going to give you a moment to think about this, and then I'm going to ask you to vote. What would you do in this situation? Okay. Let's see. All right, let's just get this done. Hold on 1 second. Let me just, oops. Stop sharing for a moment. All right, there we go. All right. Oops. I just cut it off. All right. All right, so how are our votes coming along? Let's see. All right. Let's see how our voting is coming along, huh? Um, let's see. Nope. For some reason my switcher is not working. Oh, okay, here we go. All right, here come the votes. All right, everybody, we got about 50 people here, so vote. All right. Well, very interestingly, it looks like 63% of the people would refuse to copy the files. 21% said only copy the research reports. Oh, and 15% said only copy the spreadsheet she created. That's very, very interesting. And I'm curious, what's the ethical issue here? And here's the ethical issue. It is that all of the property, anything that you create when you're employed by your employer, is the property of your employer. So in order for you to take anything that you created with you when you leave your employer, you have to get permission for. So in this case, what your boss is asking you to do is to help her steal company property. Because notice it said research reports that she wrote, marketing presentations containing her performance record, and spreadsheet models. Although this is her work in a sense, she was paid to do that work by her employer. So in a sense, you should refuse to copy the files, but in reality, this individual did copy the files. Why did they copy the files? Very simply, this individual was his boss, and this individual was going to continue to be his boss for the next 2 weeks. Equally as important, this boss had hired and mentored this person for the past 3 years. So this individual felt like they had some loyalty or obligation to this individual or to the boss because of how well the boss treated them over the past 3 years. In addition, it says the boss is being unfairly let go because of office politics. So you may have some sympathy for the boss and want to help them, especially because you know that they are the sole support of their family, and she is concerned about finding another job. So given all of those factors, this individual copied the files. They felt uncomfortable about doing it. Nevertheless, they copied the files. Now, they felt uncomfortable about doing it, but they copied them. So 2 weeks later, after the boss left, this person went to talk to the boss's boss. And they explained to them what they had done, copying all of these files. Now, the boss's boss was not happy that this individual had copied the files, but they could certainly understand why. So they didn't get into trouble. But please remember, anything that you produce at your employer is the property of your employer. And you cannot take it with you when you leave that employer unless you get their express permission. Is everybody with me on that?
Yes,
And
so
some,
Michael, if I
yes,
there's a question in the chat
I
for
see.
you, yeah, about what if it is a public report?
Well, here's the thing, and thank you, Melissa, for asking that question. Melissa, many investment firms produce reports that are distributed to their clients. So clients who receive these reports pay for them in some way, shape, or form. So investment firms don't just give out reports to the public, they really only distribute them to their clients. As a result of that, it would not be a public report, and you would then have to ask permission still of your employer to take it with you. All right, thank you very much. Keep those questions coming. All right, so one of the reasons why I like this case is because it illustrates something about how we make decisions. And here's the point. We often make unethical decisions, not because we are bad people, but because we're often affected by psychological biases, social and organizational factors, and situational influences. These biases, factors, and influences lead to weaknesses in how we process information and make decisions, which can lead to unethical behavior. So let me give you a couple of examples of these biases, factors, and influences. The first factor is obedience to authority. We all have this desire to please our authority. So our boss asks us to do something and we do it, oftentimes without thinking about the ethical consequences or perceptions of what our boss is asking us to do. Conformity bias. We all have this tendency to follow the crowd and want to belong and to conform our behavior to that of our peers. So what this means is we may see a whole lot of people doing something and we go, well, if they're doing it, we can do it too, without, again, thinking about what are the ethical issues underlying what all of these people we observe are doing. A third factor is incrementalism, a gradual shift towards unethical behavior. You see, most frauds or unethical behavior does not happen overnight. Like somebody doesn't wake up one day and say, I want to steal $20 million from my clients. Doesn't happen that way. It happens slowly and over time. It may start out maybe just taking $100 from your clients and you get away with it. And then maybe it's $1,000. You get away with it. And then it just escalates over time. Another factor that can lead to unethical behavior is overconfidence. You see, we all think that we are more ethical than anyone else. So we make decisions without proper reflection under the assumption, I'm more ethical than they are, it won't happen to me. And this is a very dangerous attitude to take, because when you're so overconfident in your own ethics, it means that you are not stopping and thinking about the potential consequences or the perceptions of what you are about to do before you do it. So these are just some of the factors that can lead good people to behave unethically. Now, Ethics can be dangerous to your career because you may be called upon to do things that turn out to be unethical or illegal. Don't believe me? Well, here are two studies that were done in the United States on recent graduates. One study was conducted at Harvard University, and it found that many graduates received explicit instructions from their middle managers or felt strong organizational pressures to do things that they believed were sleazy, unethical, or sometimes illegal. A Columbia University study found that 40% of graduates had been rewarded for taking some action they considered to be ethically troubling, and 31% of those who refused to act in ways they considered to be unethical believed that they were penalized for their choice, compared to less than 20% who felt they had been rewarded. So it's not if you're going to be asked to do something unethical, it's more like when you're going to be asked to do something unethical. So you need to be prepared. Now, I see Antonella posted a question in the chat room, but the question is in Spanish. So if someone could translate it for me, I will respond. All right.
It's not a question. I was telling people in the chat that they could write their questions in Spanish, and I will translate it for them.
All right. Thank you, Antonella. Much appreciated. All right. So here's a gentleman. His name was Fabrice Touré. He was 29 years old and found liable on 6 of 7 counts for defrauding investors on this Abacus Securities deal. He said, and at his trial, I was a big team player. If there was something wrong with this transaction, wouldn't people have told me? So his bosses said, go out and sell this product, and here's what you need to say to sell this product. He was obeying authority, went out and followed orders, and got in trouble as a result of that. Here's another gentleman who was 31. He was charged with manipulating LIBOR, which is the London Interbank Offering Rate. And you're not supposed to manipulate interest rates. On manipulating LIBOR, he said, who was I to question what they were doing? I thought it was weird, but that's how they did it. So within a few months, based on practices at the bank and feedback from his bosses, Mr. Hayes considered it part of his job. Perfect example of conformity bias. Everybody else was doing it, so he did it as well. Last gentleman is Kwaku Adubale, 32. He was a trader who lost $2.2 billion. Now, I have to tell you, it's very difficult for one person to lose $2.2 billion. At his trial, he told the jury senior managers were aware of his actions and encouraged him to take risks. He also said circumventing the bank's rules was common practice, and I only got in trouble because I lost money. And this is the irony of the investment profession. Everybody loves you when you're generating returns, generating profits. Nobody knows you when you start incurring losses. But I also want you to recognize how young these gentlemen are. Do I think that they were bad people? No. I think they got caught up in some of those factors that I talked about earlier. So here is our next situation, and let me just turn on the voting. You are a portfolio manager in the international sector who travels to a foreign country to investigate investment opportunities for your institutional clients. The management of a large company you visit and a potentially attractive investment opportunity gives you a very expensive gift. Now, refusing the gift would be considered an insult in this country and harm the good relations that you've developed with the company's management. So, accepting the gift is A, okay, because refusal in this instance would jeopardize an investment opportunity for your clients. B, probably okay if you give the gift to charity. C, probably not okay unless you tell your supervisor that you accepted the gift. D, probably not okay. Now, to put some reality into this, let's say that the gift is a watch. Let's make it a Rolex watch. So this company gives you a Rolex watch when you go and visit them. What do you do? All right, look at those votes coming in. All right, let's see how we're doing here. I'd like to see more people voting. Okay, well, let's talk about the results. And again, the votes will still come in. You can still vote. So 50% of the people said it's not okay. 29% of the people said it was not okay unless you tell your supervisor that you accepted the gift. 7% said, 14% it's okay because refusal in this instance would jeopardize an investment opportunity. And 7%, yay, would give the gift to charity. Okay, so let's talk about the issues here. First of all, there are many countries that you may visit where the culture is giving expensive gifts, where giving a gift is not meant to be a bribe, it's just the culture and the way they do business. So this could be a very innocent thing. They're just giving you a nice gift. So I can understand why people would say yes. It would say A, because you certainly don't want to insult this company and ruin this investment opportunity for your clients. Totally get that. B, probably okay if you give the gift to charity. So you receive the gift, you think, oh, I really shouldn't keep it, so you donate it to charity. I think that's probably okay too. C, probably not okay unless you tell your supervisor that you accepted the gift. Now, I think this is a good answer. Yes, you should tell your supervisor, hey, look, I just got this Rolex watch from this company I went to visit. And your boss goes, okay, I understand the situation that you were in, you can keep it. So you keep the Rolex watch. Now, let's assume the next day you go visit one of your institutional clients in order to tell them about this company that you just came back from visiting. So you go and visit this client, you tell them all the wonderful things that you learned about this company you just saw, and the client gets very excited. So the client sits down right there, then and there, and writes out a check for you so that you can take this money and invest it in this company's stock. So as you reach for this check from the client sees the watch on your wrist and says, hey, where did you get that Rolex watch from? It's beautiful. And what are you going to say? You see, the problem is, if you tell the client the truth, which is really what you should be doing, that's probably going to have an impact upon the client's decision. Why? Because the client is going to feel that the only reason why you recommended that company to him or her is because this company gave you that very expensive watch. And, you know, no matter how convincing you are about how great this company is, the client is still going to look at that very expensive watch on your wrist and go, no, the only reason why you're recommending it is because they gave you that watch. Meaning, the client is going to feel that your independence and objectivity have been compromised as a result of your receiving this watch. Now, a lot of people said, D, it's not okay, but what do? Let's suppose this is your last night in this country and the company takes you out for a big dinner. At the end of the dinner, they call you up to the head of the table and they say, thank you very much for coming to visit us. We enjoyed your visit. And here is a small token of our appreciation. And they give you the Rolex watch. Now, what do you do at that moment? Do you say, I don't want this watch and refuse it and therefore insulting them? Or what do you do? Well, in many cases, the best thing for you to do at that very moment is for you to accept the watch, but at a quiet moment before the dinner ends, go up to the gift giver and say, thank you so much for this beautiful gift. Unfortunately, my company has a policy that will not allow me to accept such an expensive gift. And by putting it in this way and giving it back to the gift giver, that they may not feel insulted by your refusing the gift. However, I have worked with companies that have told their employees, If you are in a situation where refusing the gift would really be an insult, then accept the gift on behalf of the company. And when you get back into the office, give the gift to the boss or upper management, and then they can figure out what to do with it. All right? Anybody have any questions on that? All right, let's go. All right. So I love this cartoon. It says, run this by the legal department, but run super fast so the ethics department doesn't see it. Now that goes back to my earlier comment about the law versus ethics. You see, the law, as it says here, represents a minimum level of expected conduct. The law tells us what we can and cannot do. Ethics, however, represents a much higher level and focuses upon what we should and should not do. You see, one of the reasons why the public was so angry at the investment industry after the 2008 financial crisis is because so many of the activities that caused the financial crisis were legal. They just weren't ethical. So as I said before, one of the reasons why employers like hiring CFA charter holders is because they know we can't do just what is legal. We have to behave and live up to a much higher standard. So here's some fundamental ethical principles. We must always place our client interest first. Client interests come above our personal interests, as well as the interest of our employers. Secondly, it's important that we maintain our independence and objectivity, meaning that we don't accept expensive gifts like we talked about before, which may give the perception that your independence and objectivity has been compromised. Now, it's important that we avoid conflicts of interest, but as I told you earlier, when you're paid on commission, you can't avoid a conflict of interest, in which case you have to manage that conflict of interest. And but the best way to manage it? It's through full and fair disclosure so that the client has the opportunity to make an informed decision. So you can say, Mr. or Mrs. Jones, I'm recommending this product to you because I think it's in your best interest. Please be aware, however, that I will earn a commission if you decide to invest in this product. Okay. Next fundamental principle is preservation of confidentiality. In the days of Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, WhatsApp, etc., maintaining not only your client's confidentiality, but your employer's confidentiality is very important. When dealing with clients or when working with clients, it's important that you deal with all of your clients fairly, instead of favoring one group and putting another group of clients at a disadvantage. And lastly, whenever you're conducting securities analysis or making securities recommendations, it's important that you use reasonable care and prudent judgment, meaning that you are thorough in your analysis and that you judge this investment to be suitable and appropriate for your client's investment objectives and risk tolerance. Fundamental ethical principles. All right. I love this quote. This quote says, situational influences have more to do with unethical behavior than a person's character. under the right conditions, good people, and I mean all of us, can be induced, seduced, and initiated to act unethically. And again, what this is saying is people act unethically, not because they are bad people, they just find themselves caught up in a situation which results in their choosing the wrong decision as opposed to the right decision. So I love this cartoon too. This cartoon says honesty is the best policy. Okay, now what's the second best policy? So here's my response to this. If you only want a job in the investment industry, then honesty may not be the best policy. However, if you want a career in the investment industry, honesty is the only policy. No one stays in business very long by being dishonest. Oops, sorry. So, wait, I just want to make sure. Yeah, all right, here we go. Sorry about that. All right, so here is our last case. Let me just go back for the day. This is an interesting one, a true story. You are the director of research at Parmite, a very conservative and prestigious global investment management firm. You have interviewed over 75 people for an equity analyst position and have narrowed down the applicant pool to one, Alex. Alex has a finance degree from a top university, a 4.0 grade point average on a scale of 4.0, so the top, and was the senior class president. When you search Alex's name online, a YouTube video comes up showing a sparsely clad means barely clothed, Alex drinking and partying with friends. You also notice that Alex has made inappropriate comments about friends on Twitter. What would you do? Would you A, hire Alex? B, try to find more photos of Alex? C, ask Alex to explain the pictures in Twitter comments? Or D, do not hire Alex? So I'll give you a moment or two to think about it and then vote. See how these things are coming in. I'll give you an see how the voting is coming along. All right. Come on, vote, 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 vote. All right. So 60% of you said don't hire Alex. 20% said ask Alex to explain the pictures in Twitter comments. 13% said hire Alex. 7% said try to find more pictures of Alex. Ooh la la. Okay, so let's talk about this. Well, first of all, Alex has not done, well, first of all, has not done anything illegal, you know. However, there are some issues in this particular circumstance. Some of you may say, well, why not hire Alex? Because it appears that he or she is the best one for the job. They have a 4.0 grade point average. They're the senior class president, and you've narrowed that applicant pool down to one. So yeah, why wouldn't you hire Alex? He or she is very qualified for the job. Now, a number of you said, 20% said, ask Alex to explain the pictures in Twitter comments. Well, my question to you is, what would Alex have to say to you to make you hire him or her? It seems like these pictures were taken not too long ago, etc. Now, Alex may not have posted these pictures and things, but still they're there, you know? And what's surprising me is 60% of you said, do not hire Alex. And I'm curious to find out why. And here's the point. Let me tell you what happened. In the real life situation, this company did not hire Alex. Why is that? Well, first of all, they felt that Alex had exhibited very poor judgment in posting the video and everything in the Twitter comments online. And they felt that if Alex was going to exhibit such poor judgment over something minor, what type of judgment would they exhibit in a more serious situation? The second reason why they didn't hire Alex was because this was a very conservative and prestigious firm. And they did not want clients coming in saying, hey, I saw some photos and a video of one of your analysts on YouTube. So as a result of that, Alex was not hired. But here's something I really need to bring to your attention. And I can say this is definitely a fact in the US and in Canada, that many employers will look at your social media footprint before deciding whether they want to hire you or not. So they'll look at what you've posted on Facebook and on other things. And I know in the US, if a potential employer sees pictures or other things that they believe are inappropriate, they don't hire you, you know? And again, you can say, well, what I do in my private life is what I do in my private life. And that's perfectly true. But once you post your private life onto the internet, it then becomes your public life as well, and people have the opportunity to see it as well as react to it. So please make sure that you think about this the next time you're going to post anything on Facebook, whatever. All right? So a couple of more comments I have. As I said earlier, the CFA charter equals ethics. This is our CFA Institute Code of Ethics and Standards of Professional Conduct. Remember those 7 fundamental ethical principles we talked about earlier? Well, our Code of Ethics really encompasses those 7 fundamental principles. So here's a great quote. The unethical actions of infamous wrongdoers who've recently populated the crime sections of the financial papers do not prove they are evil people. Instead, they illustrate that the circumstances in which we find ourselves often, not always, have more to do with the decisions we make and actions we take than do our basic character traits, okay? So I want to talk about rationalizations, and here's this quote. There's never been an act done since the beginning, from a kid stealing candy to a dictator committing genocide, that the person doing it didn't think he was fully justified. That's a mental trick called rationalizing, and it's done the human race more harm than anything else you can name. Oh, okay, so wait, before I go on, I got a question from Ashley. Is it true that we must separate our private life from our work life? I've listened that enterprises should not, I'm not sure what involve create or get influence or get involved with the employee's private life. I have listened about this many times. Okay, so here's what I'm saying is, your private life is your private life. What you do when you leave the office is nobody's business but your own. However, when you post what you're doing in your private life on the internet, on Facebook, on Instagram, or whatever, you are then taking your private life and publicizing it. And in that case, an employer, and again, I'll just say in the US and Canada, employers then have a right to comment on it or react to it, since you have publicized what you're doing on the internet. That's really what I'm saying, okay? Completely clear, thank you. Okay, great. So let's talk about some rationalizations. When we rationalize, what we're trying to do is avoid or reduce the negative effect that accompanies performing an unethical act. You know, when we do something unethical, we either feel shame, we're embarrassed, or we feel guilty about it. So we need to rationalize what we've done to reduce that feeling of shame or guilt. We also use rationalizations to justify behavior that is inconsistent with our own image of ourselves. Remember earlier, I said that we believe that we're more ethical than we really are. So when we do something that is inconsistent with that ethical image we have of ourselves, then we have to think of rationalizations or justifications to explain why we did that. Lastly, we use rationalizations to change our perception of a situation or social environment in order to justify our behavior. So here's some common rationalizations. Everybody else does it, so it must be okay. Well, this is the way they do it at firm X. So if they're doing it at firm X, why can't we do it at our firm? If we don't do it, somebody else will. This is the way it's always been done. Doesn't really hurt anyone. It's not a big deal. It's not my responsibility. And this last one, you notice Fabrice Ture said, I want to be a team player. Hey, I want to fit in. I'm going to go along with whatever the team is doing, even though I know it's unethical. All right? If you ever hear yourself or anyone you know giving one of these rationalizations, stop immediately and think about what you are about to do, because you may be trying to justify unethical behavior. So I'm going to use this opportunity to end this workshop now, but a couple of things I want to bring to your attention. How do you resolve ethical dilemmas? Well, the first step is to acknowledge that there is an ethical issue. Sometimes you may not see the ethical issue immediately. You may see obedience to authority. You may see loyalty and other things, but not the underlying ethical issue. Second, determine who's faced with and owns the problem. In the case of the files, that wasn't your problem until you agreed to copy those files for your boss. So that means that you're aiding and abetting her stealing company property. Gather the relevant data. So in the example of the gift, does your company have a gift policy? And if it does, what is the dollar limit of a gift that you can accept? What is the dollar limit of a gift that you can give to someone else? When I say test the wrong versus right parameters, I'm saying ask yourself, is this legal? Can I do this? Can I not do this? When I say test for the right versus right paradigm, ask yourself, is this ethical? Should I do this or should I not do this? Apply the resolution principles. Am I putting my client interest first? Is this going to affect my independence and objectivity? Am I fully and fairly disclosing all the information the client needs to make an informed decision? Investigate third-way options or compromise. You see, in many cases, your choice may not be do it or don't do it. There may be choices or alternatives available in between those two extremes. Make a decision and then reflect on what you've learned from the decision. Because here's the point, we're never going to make the right decision all of the time. But if we've thought about that decision beforehand, we can at least learn from that decision, which will then enable us to make better decisions in the future. So you should start looking for a new job if your boss asks you to do something and then says one of the following: no one will ever know. Or your boss says, this conversation never happened. Or your boss says, it doesn't matter how it gets done as long as it gets done. Wink, wink. So I'll leave you with this last quote. Actually, what I'd like you to do before I leave you with this quote, I would like you to fill out this short survey on Slido. The survey is anonymous. I don't see it, but we would appreciate your filling it out so that we know if you liked the workshop and how we can make this workshop even more impactful for you. All right? So I'll leave you with this quote. If you don't have integrity, you have nothing. You can't buy it. You can have all the money in the world, but if you are not a moral or ethical person, you really have nothing. So give us your feedback. Tell us your thoughts on this live training by taking just 2 minutes to answer the 3 questions on the survey. Remember, your answers are anonymous. And I will say, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to giving me this opportunity to provide this workshop to you. And I will turn this over to maybe Antonella or Brianna for the last comments. Ah, there she is.
Thank you, Mr. Macmillan. Well, yes, for the wrap up of this workshop, We would like for you to actually fill the survey if Mr. Michael Macmillan hasn't. Please do it. And well, yes. Brianna will say some words. And if I will go.
Okay, let me thanks our exhibitor, Michael Macmillan. He's a great human being and professor. I identify with him because I always in class, in the classroom, I promote the ethical codes of CFA Institute. So we have some words from the other representative of the Entrepreneurship Club. So Fabricio Bentin is going to show us a very special invitation for you to participate in the CFA Society Peru Ethic Challenge. The past year, USIL won the first prize. It was a very challenging experience and we learned about it. So our relationship with the CFA Institute comes stronger. And okay, Fabricio, tell us about this opportunity for the USIL community. Go ahead.
Thanks, Professor Leo. Good night to everyone. And well, thanks, PhD Macmillan, for such a presentation. I'm sure that it was an honor to get you, and I'm sure that thanks to this information, students will come with a different and more adequate approach regarding analysis of ethics. Finally, we invite you all to participate in the selection process of the FCA Society Peru Ethics Challenge. The selected UCO team will represent us will win a scholarship valued in $1,000 for CFA chart holders level 1 exam. So this is a great opportunity to all the ones that are related to this. And will represent us in the Latin American level, competing with different countries such as Mexico, Brazil, and among others in the region. Thank you, Professor Leo.
Okay, this is a flyer we have for all the USIL community. You have to be high skilled in communication and presentation and have a critical analysis in order to review the ethical code of the CFA Institute, advanced English in order to have a reading comprehension about ethics code. But I want to finish with some words about this purpose, and that's it. Attentive minds, experience, service, and imagination are the ingredients that allow us to innovate in this environmental, social, and governance education, ESG. So a very important issue and area of the governance is the ethical making situation. Our partners with intelligence and purpose help us raise awareness of the importance of ESG education in academia, the investment industry, and governance as CFA Institute. So many thanks to our Professor Macmillan, our special exhibitor, and to our partners for helping us train leaders in ESG investment management. So we officially close the event, remembering that these spaces unite us more to innovate in ESG education and take the best ethical decisions. So thank you very much to all, to the representative of the clubs, Finance and Investment Club, International Business Club, Entrepreneurship Club, and the Excellence Club. So in this scenario, we have to be more united, and we have to think in a collective mind to make a real change for the future. So thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye.